Are we looking, Brendan?
Just one second.
Sure.
And we should be good.
Great. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the first meeting of the Penobscot County Commission in March 4th, 2026. At this point, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Trimble.
Here.
Commissioner Marshall.
Here.
Mr. Treasurer.
Here.
And the chair is present. I would like to invite our administrator to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this point, I would entertain approval of the minutes from the February 27th meeting.
I move we approve the minutes of February 27th, 2026. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is unanimous. We now open the floor for public comments. We allow up to 3 minutes for individuals to present on items that are not on the agenda. I believe we have somebody online at this point. Mr. Danziger, if you would like to share your comments, you are welcome to do so.
Good morning. My name is Larry Danziger. I live in Bangor. And I know for many months, the commissioners have talked about a proposed new jail for the county. However, I would like to ask whether the commissioners have obtained any information regarding renovation of the existing jail rather than building a new jail. Have the commissioners collected information on what those costs are? And if so, to please publicize those as well. If the commissioners have not collected that information, I would strongly urge them to do so, because if no figures are available as to the cost of the existing renovation of the existing jail, then I do not think that commissioners have done due diligence in determining different options for how to address the jail issue. So I hope commissioners will collect that information, determine whether or not there are any codes, building codes or safety codes that are currently being violated. They should know that anyways and correct those in any case. But what would be the cost of renovating the jail rather than building a new jail? Thank you. And I would appreciate getting that information myself and to provide it publicly to the voters of Penobscot County. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any others online that wish to make comments?
Don't believe so.
Do we have any others online that would raise their hand if they wish to make comments? We'll go to the public and then come back for one last look. Are there members of the public that wish to speak to items? Mr. Velazquez. Good morning, sir.
So after the last meeting, you suggested to speak about some items that I needed to make the request to get on the agenda. I did so immediately. I asked for 5 minutes to readdress my grievances, First Amendment protection, to readdress my grievances with my elected officials, time, place, and manner, open public meeting. I asked for 5 minutes to discuss the policy updates here. And then I asked for 5 minutes to discuss the my experience coming in on Friday to the meeting that was pushed off. I was told in a response that I need to bring legal counsel and a lawyer in order to get on the agenda now. I don't believe so. I'm protected, and I'd like some sort of response for that. I don't need to bring a legal counsel to get on the agenda. I don't understand the email. I can read it to you. I have it here.
So you have emailed us requesting time on the agenda for
I did, and I got a response the very next day saying I need to bring in legal counsel to get on the agenda. for those 3 items, 5 minutes apiece. I think you granted me 15 minutes on the 14th of January, with 5 minutes of grievance at that day. So I didn't think it'd be an issue. I did what you asked last meeting, and I came in, he was not in the building that day, so it was taken by somebody else. But I did get a response saying I need legal counsel to get on the agenda. Absolutely not true. I forwarded the email to 2 representatives and a senator and somebody else, and they're appalled by that email. So how do we fix it? How do I get on the agenda? I think I made the request. It's lawful. I'd like to be on the agenda, please.
You have made a request to be on the agenda, but
Yes.
have you provided data as to the individuals and the information you would like to address so that we can share that with any parties that may?
I was going to address the elected officials here.
Okay. Right.
I don't know who else wants to be addressed. Not really sure. I never had a moment with the administrator, but I think those 3 5-minute items should be put on the agenda.
Okay. We will discuss this and determine it.
Okay.
We're in public session right now. I want to respect your request, but we will need some more information so we can set that up. So we will
Okay.
have a response to you within a week.
Okay, sounds good. And the last thing real quick is, the only time I'm buzzed in the building now is during the public meeting. I was left in that cold room by the speaker box for 5 minutes at minimum. Other people are coming in and, oh yes, have a seat on the bench, someone will be right with you. I'm left out there until someone physically pushes the door open. Twice now I've been left in that cold box. It was 11 degrees, while others were being buzzed right in. And I don't know why that is now.
Did you
I
have an
shouldn't
appointment?
be left in the cold while everyone else is getting buzzed to sit on the bench like I would do if I was buzzed in.
Did you have an appointment?
I didn't, did I have an appointment? It was the day of the meeting that was pushed. I came in.
Okay.
But everyone else was being buzzed right in, but when I came in the last time for the meeting, I was left at the door until it was pushed open by somebody else. When everybody else was coming in for the meeting, they were buzzed right in. Someone has to physically come open the door for me. I shouldn't be left out in the cold.
Okay.
I feel like it's retaliation here.
Well, that is your description. We will take that into consideration, but
Okay,
this is a
sounds good.
secure building for a number of reasons. And,
Right, and I'm here for lawful business, like everyone else.
well, if you didn't have an appointment, then the question becomes what lawful business you would have, and we'll certainly take that up when you are on the agenda.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, folks.
Anyone further online that we would like to recognize?
Nobody has suggested that they want to publicly comment.
Any others in the audience that would like to make comments regarding things not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will close public comment. At this point, we would call on Director Buswell and his deputy for a public hearing which was scheduled for 9:05. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to bring up my support group, if you don't
Okay.
mind, for the public hearing.
Yep,
We have a lot to talk about, and they talk about it and I do about it.
fair enough. We will have enough room for everyone who needs to join us.
Is Maureen on the?
Yes, I just promoted her to a panelist.
Let's see.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies.
As you're aware, we've begun the work several months ago to start a possible TIF agreement with a credit enhancement agreement with Matt Polstein and his businesses up in the T1RA Wells. And that work has led us to here. We now have draft documents, if you will, that we're asking you today to listen to our proposal. And when this public hearing's over, we would ask for a vote to either accept our application, and that's all we're voting on today, is to apply for a TIF, but we would need your approval to do that. So either give us approval or don't give us approval, but today is a great chance for everybody, yourself and the public, to ask questions.
Okay,
And I'll let these guys introduce themselves.
gentlemen,
Sure. Thank you, George.
you're not,
Okay.
you're, no. I
Appreciate
know you're in
that.
a courtroom, but
Yeah, yeah. It's following George's lead.
I understand.
Very impressive looking. So my name is Stephen Wagner. I'm an attorney with Rudman Winchell, and so I am your attorney for the county. I'm joined here to my right is Jonathan Pottle, Andy Hamilton of Katahdin Law, and they are counsel for Matt Polstein, who is the principal of 3 entities that I'll allow him to introduce that are part of the Hammond Ridge and Twin Pines development that is why we are here today discussing a tax increment financing district. So before I turn it over to Matt, who I assume will take sort of the lion's share on the most interesting piece of this conversation, which is the exciting work that he's doing, I just wanted to give a brief outline for the benefit of the public. I know the commissioners and I've discussed this with staff, but as we're here at the public hearing, I just want to give a very brief recap of what a tax increment financing district is, so we have some context for what we're discussing today.
Can I ask you one item?
Yes.
Since this is a public hearing, should I formally open that before you preside, or?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be
So at this
wise.
point-
Thank you.
I would open the public hearing for the Hammond Ridge Development Company project. We will allow presentations, and then if there are members of the public who wish to speak either for the project, not for the project, or neither for nor against, we will provide that opportunity. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Cushing. And now that I see her face, I'd like to also introduce Noreen Norton, who is our extremely valuable economic development consultant, who has been working with everybody here to get everything together. And so she's also available to answer any questions. So very briefly, tax increment financing is an economic development tool authorized by statute that allows the county, for purposes of the unorganized territories in Penobscot County, to designate a particular district and then capture a new economic value in that district and redirect it, those taxes on that value, to help finance that economic development project itself, as well as other economic development. Essentially, in its most simple form, you're keeping more of the tax dollars in the area that you would like to see this economic development. And how we do that is a development program, which is what's in front of you and was presented, has been available for public inspection. That's the application, and what you'd be approving is not just our authority to file that application with the state, but you are acting as the legislative body for the unorganized territory of Penobscot County, and your action today would be to designate that defined geographic area of the district and approve the development program that specifies the purposes, explains that the statutory criteria have been met, and identifies a financial plan for how the funds will be collected and how they would be spent. So a little bit on the mechanics of that. When you set a district, you set what's called a original assessed value. Essentially, we freeze in time the existing assessed value for the areas within the district that we define. And any taxes on new value above and beyond that original assessed value during the tenure of this 30-year tax increment financing district are what we call the increased assessed value. And that would normally go into the statewide UT fund. Instead, under this development program, it goes into a separate fund, separate from the county budget, just the UT budget specific to the UT within Penobscot County. And then the development program specifies, in accordance with state statute, how those funds may be spent. And in essence, they can be spent for certain economic development activities. Often along with the credit enhancement agreement, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Often along with a tax increment financing program, municipalities, or in this case the county, will consider what's called a credit enhancement agreement. And that's an agreement between the county and a third party. In this case, we're discussing this with Hammond Ridge and Twin Pines developers. It's an agreement to share a portion of that increased assessed value for certain limited purposes that are related to economic development. The development program that you are considering approving today says that a credit enhancement agreement is anticipated, and it defines some of the minimum conditions, terms of that agreement. Though it's not actually executing that agreement today, that would be executed later. This simply authorizes us to do that and defines the parameters of what the commissioners deem acceptable for such an agreement. The couple things of benefits we had discussed at the last meeting. So again, for the benefit of the public, essentially this keeps more dollars here. It does so in part through what's called the tax shift. So that increased assessed valuation is sheltered from certain calculations concerning education subsidies, municipal revenue sharing, tax assessment. This value that's essentially sheltered is called the tax shift. And so what that allows the county to do is just keep more of those new dollars here, and specifically here in the areas that are impacted by the development, and that otherwise would have been a new revenue that would have been shared across the state. Instead, we're targeting it to where the development is. So that's one of the primary benefits of a TIF. We did circulate a one-pager, double-sided. It's got a blue heading on the front. I know some of the public is reviewing that now. That has all the sort of talking points that I just went over on how a TIF works. It also has some infographics on the back. That'll be helpful as I transfer this over to the folks on my right, and then back to me to explain some of the finances in this particular case, but I think those graphics will be a good visual along with some maps to help understand what I'm talking about. If essentially, I think if you look at those dollars, that's a good visual to see how this tool keeps the dollars here and targeted towards this particular economic development and other projects that are laid out in the development program, should the commissioners choose to exercise this today. So before I turn it over to Mr. Polstein and his team, well, first I'll ask Maureen, is there anything that you wanted to add at this point?
No, I think you did a good job.
Okay, and commissioners, are there any questions on the particular mechanics of what we're doing here today?
Yeah, when we last met, you were gonna, I don't know if you or what group were sending a letter to DECE for an extension to capture some additional, what's the status of that?
Yeah, absolutely, I can speak to that. So at your last meeting, you authorized us to apply for an extension, and that extension was granted, and that's allowing us to have until March 31st to make this decision, and that way we're able to, did I get that right? Yeah. March 31st to make this decision, and that allows us to set the original assessed value and capture 2.5 million that Mr. Polstein's already invested, and that will, under the terms of the financial plan and the credit enhancement agreement, all go towards the county's portion of the TIF funds here.
Other questions from the commission?
No,
All right.
pretty self-explanatory.
All right, we're ready to proceed, gentlemen.
Sure. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioners, pleasure to be here. My name is Matt Polstein, and I think most of you are pretty familiar with efforts we've been engaged in way back since 2007, when we first rezoned land on Hammond Ridge with an eye towards development. Economic circumstances with the financial collapse of 2009 and then slow growth and other economic challenges that the Millinocket area Katahdin region faced sort of slowed our momentum down, but recently circumstances in the region have sort of better positioned us to move ahead with an ambitious project on Hammond Ridge. In the time that's passed since that original rezoning in 2007, we rezoned all of Hammond Ridge to a planned development permit, which basically is our own zoning template for the ridge that envisions potentially as many as 300 houses, 2 hotels, and clusters of mixed-use development that would allow that area to become a little bit of a sort of community center outside the town of Millinocket, in a way that would encourage people to live and stay in the Katahdin region, not just visit it. We would see significant growth through our business operation, Twin Pine Camps, and NEOC that provides food and beverage operations and lodging and recreational activities at that site through this program. As you may be familiar, when you're in the unorganized territory, you lack a lot of municipal services. And through conversations that we've had specifically about public safety, there's been a lot of back and forth with us and the town of Millinocket and the county around the delivery of services to our area and how to improve those and best pay for those. One of the challenges that we faced, in addition to the funding of the work that we're doing, is the ability to ensure the buildings that we build after we build them. We're in a ISO rated 10 area, which is the lowest rating for fire safety you can find, and that really makes it expensive and or almost impossible to ensure more complex development, which our proposal would lead to. One of the aspects of this TIF, one of the principal aspects of the development side of this TIF, is the building of a maintenance facility that would have space in it that would be utilized as a fire station. The exact sort of dynamics of its operation are part of what would remain to be worked out, but the hope is that it would be something that would be administered by the town of Millinocket or East Millinocket, or a new regional approach to fire safety in the area, and it would bring significant benefit to our project. In some respects, parts of our project probably wouldn't be feasible without this kind of development taking place in our area. So it seemed reasonable to return some tax revenue that was coming to the area in a way that helps, I think, the county as well as us to focus on that. We have, I received Monday a site law permit that seems like it's taken many years to get, but received that Monday and are looking to move forward with phase one of this project, which involves the creation of some significant additional commercial lodging to expand our commercial lodging portfolio, mixed use retail space around an activity center and a brewery that we currently have on the property, and then some residential development. And we hope to move forward with that this spring. The credit enhancement portion of this TIF, I can't tell you how important that is from the standpoint of us securing financing, not only for this phase, but particularly for the more complicated pieces of the puzzle, like large-scale hotel development and bigger clusters of closely knit buildings. So happy to answer questions. There's a lot more I could tell you about it, but I think in a nutshell, that gives a really good overview of where we're looking to move.
Would a map be helpful to the commissioners showing where the district boundaries are?
I think it might be worthwhile. I mean, is there any question pertaining to Mr. Polsky?
Well, I've been site visitation on, and looked at a lot of these, positioned the site for the fire station or municipal area, and it's, the whole area is, has such great potential that this seems to be the natural next
We
step.
have one more that we could give the treasurer.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The guy that's gonna hold money.
George, to your knowledge, has the regional discussion up there incorporated thoughts about this project?
We've had many hours of discussion with chiefs, all three townships, all three towns up there, organized towns, about a hybrid, if you will, of using the UT fire truck, tanker truck on Matt's property. Matt has talked about some of his people being trained as volunteers. The fire chiefs are excited that this might happen because neither Millinocket nor East Millinocket have a tanker. So we'll be assisting that area greatly with that one piece of equipment. How it's going to work and how they're going to get trained and how the piece is going to come together. We've got till the building's built or beyond before we have to come up with the exact terminology. But met with the fire chief yesterday in Millinocket, and he had a lot of great ideas. Looking forward to trying to find a way to make it work.
Good. So that discussion is progressing with knowledge of this project.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. All right. Anything based on what you have heard so far that commissioners have questions? entertain that if we'd like to move into the next phase.
Yeah, if I may, I'll just give again, John Pottle, I'm an attorney here, representing Matt and the developers in this particular effort. I thought I would just briefly comment on the CEA or credit enhancement agreement that Matt had mentioned and how that, fits in to the TIF district. And I know Noreen and Stephen may go into this as well, but just to kind of run that down to make sure it's very clear. And it was referenced earlier, the first $2.5 million of taxable value that value is utilized by the county. So that the taxes generated by that's the county's side of it. So that's kind of important element number one. As Matt mentioned, a real keystone, if you will, is this facilities building, because although it may not have a fancy name, the facility building, maintenance building, it is absolutely critical for all the surrounding improvements and investments that he's planning for a pretty complex projects, you could even say, however you view it. So that really is kind of the upfront investment that helps enable those further downstream ones. And in my view, it really presents a wonderful economic development opportunity where you have the private sector, Matt, really marshaling forward capital to get that in place, but also providing the opportunity on the public side for the type of services that Matt was referring to, and having a physical plant, the building, an area for that to be housed in order to help facilitate or incentivize, I would say, all the remaining components of the project, because that, again, is a very critical keystone component. So when you start to get this new value, and by the way, all this new value is generated by improvements in the TIF district, the private side. That's where this new value comes from. And it's the taxes generated from that new value that is proposed to help effectively pay off or pay back cost of that building, plus the cost of the equipment that the county would provide in that kind of public-private partnership. So it's a payment mechanism, if you will, for the county, in addition to that first $2.5 million of value that the county is keeping complete. So that's a really pretty key component that I would mention. In other words, one of the primary objectives of the CEA is to help facilitate the payment of that facilities building, as well as the functionality and the services that it would have to help serve the overall development. The other component is a CEA terms that is effectively like a ladder. The more value and improvement that the project generates, and it goes in $10 million increments, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 plus $million. That's a lot of new value. Again, that's all generated on the private side. The taxes from that, as the value goes up, more can be reimbursed, if you will, or provided back to the developer to put back into the infrastructure for all these projects. And that's specifically laid out in the CEA as a material term. It all goes back into the property to help maintain and enhance the taxable value. That's broadening the tax base, is a phrase you often use, because you've got that investment going back into it. And of course, the county is getting a significant portion of that as well, based on the amount of new investment, new taxable value that is there. And as I mentioned, that first $2.5 million always stays with the county. So from our perspective, we think it's a pretty well-balanced arrangement where you've got the private sector and Matt marshaling forth the capital up front to create this new value, but as well as the county participating, but also having a payment source, which is effectively the new value to help cover the expenditures and improvements or investments on that functionality and equipment side, where the county would have a participating role in this particular project. So we think it's a very good relationship. We certainly appreciate all the discussions that we've had with George, Stephen, Tina, and commissioners.
So we're really excited about the project going forward. And again, as Matt said, the facility building and having this type of CEA in place provides that degree of predictability, the ability for Matt to plan to move even further forward to get these projects underway. So we really appreciate the consideration.
Question? I see you've got at least 3 different areas of residential development here. These are in proximity to where you would place the...
Actually, the pink that you see this is drawn from an LUPC zoning map.
Okay.
That pink actually, most of that's actually not in the TIF district.
Okay.
That's other residential development. The TIF district, generally speaking, is the brown area.
Noreen, can you put back up that map of the,
Noreen might be able to, there you
that's a better
go. The blue line
So the
captures.
thing that you defined here is existing residential or?
It's residential zone division.
Okay.
Yeah, just if I could, Commissioner Cushing, just direct to the screen, you can see the blue outline up in the northeast corner. That actually, the TIF district does not include that particular area that you're
Okay.
focused upon. So you can see the D-PD is that planned development district. On the screen, I can't read, but it's a large tan area or orange, depending on how you view the color. And as you can see, as you get closer to the north side, that's Millinocket Lake, you can see the outline kind of, it's not on the shoreline, but then it comes in on the peninsula and comes around and then goes further over to the east.
Okay. So that's not, what's in question here today is the portion that is in yellow there.
Correct.
Or surrounded by the
Surrounded by the blue.
Thank you. Where does your mountain bike trail fall in proximity to this?
It's built throughout that facility. So the first phase of development actually takes place at sort of the epicenter of that trail system. It's an interesting point. This actually builds on some support that the county provided the area years ago that started a trail building program with a few miles of trail that's now grown to 16 miles of ski trail and 12 miles of bike trail with another 4 miles planned for construction this summer.
So the maintenance fire building will be within that orange or
Yes.
yellow?
Yep.
Thank you. Other questions?
Just to provide a little bit of the glue between regional assets and this project. Obviously, folks in Bangor know the tremendous infrastructure that the Bangor International Airport provides. Folks in Millinocket and East Millinocket know the tremendous infrastructure that the mills used to provide. What this project is, from my perspective, is right-sizing infrastructure to the current economy of the Penobscot region. And if you look to the ISO purpose that both John and Matt addressed, it's critical to get up from an ISO 10 lowest rating to a rating that will allow housing and hospitality development to occur in this area. And that is more the economic development that is appropriate to the region, including providing workforce housing for folks that are associated with redevelopment of the mill site in Millinocket, East Millinocket. We've seen fire districts develop, but I think George, in my listening in on the conversation, has got a pretty good handle on what could work. And I think more of a regional approach in the UT. So the Great Main Interior is served with fire protection. And it's really fun to see the dialogue between Matt and George going on to see how can we serve both existing residential development that's already in the area, that's not Matt's, but also what Matt has for plans. And so this really helps to get this project going. And as Commissioner Trumbull said at the last meeting, this project truly is a pure public-private partnership that really, but for the credit enhancement component, the overall TIF approach, you probably wouldn't see this project lift off. So we greatly appreciate the opportunity to work with really strong consultants like Noreen, Stephen, John, and it's been a good opportunity to really watch Matt and George lead the evolution of this project.
Do we have anything further you'd like to present? Okay, are there members of the public present that would like to speak in favor? Yes.
I'm sorry, Chair Christian, before we turn that over, just a couple points I just wanted to very briefly touch on, just for your reference, the terms that Jonathan went over, sorry, John went over.
Call me Jonathan.
Okay. Page 25 of the development plan that outlines that for your reference, and I just want to touch again on the point that I mentioned previously. Essentially, what you'd be doing today is approving the development plan, which authorizes us to enter into, in the future, this credit enhancement agreement, as long as it's consistent with these terms that John accurately captured. So I just wanted to flag that for you. And then, if you'd like, the other piece that's in here that I just wanted to touch on are part of our role, myself and Noreen, is to provide you with a projection of the finances here and that tax shift effect and what percentage of money would be available for the credit enhancement agreement for the county. And that's outlined in starting on page 39. But there's a high-level summary on that handout that gives you the bar graphs that outline some of the finances. And I thought, Noreen, would you mind spending just a couple minutes giving the sort of 10,000-foot summary of those projections?
Yeah, and I think you might have given the wrong page numbers, Stephen. Page 13 of the development program is the credit enhancement agreement. It's section
You're right, I was giving my internal page numbers.
Yes, section 6, item 7 is the credit enhancement agreement, and that lays out what Jonathan said. And it's exhibit E is the revenue projections, and exhibit F is the tax shift projections. And I will take a moment and I'll share my screen again. The tax shift projections on exhibit E I'm starting, let me go back to the first page of that, outlines the projected new investment.
Sorry to interrupt you, we're just seeing your desktop.
Oh, okay.
It is a nice desktop, it must be some of your artwork.
Yes, thank you.
Given the scale of Exhibit E, Noreen, I think it's probably good to just rely on the paper copy.
See it now?
Yeah.
Yeah, what page is it now? It's 20. That's 4. 24?
You had, yeah, 24.
I just, it's a 2-page document. Are you seeing it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and Noreen, the commissioners have it in paper in front of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see this.
Obviously, the first 2 columns are the year, and then you have the projected new investment above base. So the 2.5 million in the following column is that 2.5 million that all of the tax revenues on that are projected to go directly to the county for the entire life of the TIF term. And then what the credit enhancement portion is based on is this 3rd column, projected new investment above the base. And very quickly, we've included personal property, but made no projections for personal property. The next column is the total. We projected an increasing mill rate. And then you have the total new tax revenue projected. We're capturing 100%, and the total TIF revenues. I'm going over those pretty quickly because I want to get to the next page. The next page is what's really critical. And I'm going to move you all the way to where it says county allocation. This is set up to be first priority is the county's allocation based on that 2.5 million. So that happens first. And the increases that you see there are because of the increases that we've projected in the mill rate. And then we go back to what's Schedule A. And over that base, whatever revenues are available after that base is paid, 80% of that is split. And we've set it up as 60-40, but the split will be based on what the actual costs are between the building and the equipment, are split between the facility building and the equipment. Once that amount reaches 1.5 million, then, or when those costs are fully completed, that's when that stops, and then the credit enhancement portion takes effect. This is capturing only 80% of that difference. The 20% is continuing to go into the county allocation. You see on the third column in the county allocation, TIF revenue after Schedule A. So the remaining 20% is going to the county, to the UT for its use in its economic development projects.
Right, I think it would be helpful to people if that was renamed. It's not really a county allocation, it's a UT allocation.
Okay, yep, and we can certainly do that. Yes,
Yeah.
it is a UT allocation. Thank you. So then based on what you saw back on page 13 of the development program, those criteria and those levels of investment, the amount of the credit enhancement that goes back to the developer is based on reaching certain levels of, well, first of all, this Schedule A has to be met. Once Schedule A is met, then the amount that goes back to the developer is based on how much they've actually invested. And so that's where this 40% and 50% come in, is on that basis. And at that point, the county gets the balance of that allocation. So at the end of the day, these are the numbers that you see in those graphics on the other handout.
Maureen,
Questions?
21.
as I look at this, we have the years numbered. What if there were a delay in certain phases of the project? Does that data roll forward, or is that lost in time?
The time frame is the time frame. What happens is based on the level of investment that the developer makes. So it's delayed. We can't capture at the end any portion of that time that things are delayed.
If it's helpful, Commissioners, Maureen's correct. I think one thing just to point out is, this is a projection, which is always an estimate.
Mm-hmm.
The investments could be earlier, which could potentially generate more taxable value earlier than what's in the current projection. Could be later. I can guarantee you it won't precisely be exactly that, but that's part of the kind of crystal ball, which is trying to reasonably set forth, well, here's what we think it would be. This particular development program is somewhat dynamic because, and again, I think that's reflective of how it's well balanced between what Matt, the private capital that's going into the projects, the property, as well as the county's participation on the equipment. What I would just emphasize is there's in part a reason for that first $2.5 million staying with the county no matter what, which we know is there now. That exists. That is a payment source, if you will, for the county, which I think greatly mitigates, right, if you could say avoids any risk the county would frankly even have. Again, the payment source is all being generated from this new value, not the existing value that's not being captured by the TIF. We couldn't do that. This is all a result of the investments that Matt is making in that new value.
That's the OAS that states the 2.5 OAS remains.
Exactly.
Well, and actually, just on that point, even more critically, rather than that 2.5 going to the general UT fund across the statewide, it's enacting this development program captures that just for the benefit of the Penobscot community.
I think I got to step up for a minute. I caused a lot of extra work with this program because our current Passanumcake Wind Farm TIF only collects and puts into the actual project 90% of their overall tax. So because we've already experienced that and we've left 10% to help cover some of the other costs in the UT, state costs or otherwise, road services, I had them do a projection, and Noreen was very patient with me. She did 90%, if we only collected 90% as we do now, or 100%, to change this tax increment finance program to something different. That's why you'll see 4 different pages with a lot of the different numbers, but the 90% piece and the 100% piece will have to be decided sometime today.
Right, and if I can just clarify on that, the materials previously shared with the staff level provided those different assessments, and what is presented to you today is a 100% capture, and that's based on Noreen and I, as we worked with staff to assess this, our recommendation is to move forward with the 100%. Based on the objectives, but to George's point, that's ultimately your decision. You could choose to capture less than 100%. If we were to make that decision, I think we'd come back to revised projections and revised applications. So what's before you here today, should you approve it, would be 100% capture.
Yeah, George, what in other TIFs, what do other TIFs do? What is the range that we see there?
The only experience I have is the one that we currently have.
So that's 90-10?
That's at 90%, yeah.
Okay.
And I should, Attorney Pottles, correct me, the proposal is up to 100%, so you could have authority to capture less than 100% even as approved here.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be today. If you made that decision to move to 90 at a later time, that would be.
Good.
That would be provided, we retain the ability to change
You retain the ability
to
to
go from 100
reduce
to
it.
90, depending on circumstances.
Yes.
If you approve the 100%, you can always go down, but if you approve 90, you can't go up.
Okay. That's what's up.
Are we just hearing, are we having a discussion at this point, or just hearing, can we talk to this issue of the value of the TIF? Well, first, when I heard 100%, I thought that was very aggressive. I think those are very unusual to see 100% TIFs. And I think we need more discussion if it's 100 or 90. I think 90 would be consistent. Well, I don't know how they settled on 90 when they did the wind farm. I think it was the proposal from the developer was to do 90 at that time. I don't recall exactly.
The commissioners didn't want to take all of it. They didn't want to take 100% at that time. That board of commissioners then didn't want to take the whole 100% of that. And keep in mind, that's probably, at least initially, pays a lot. That other TIF, the wind farm TIF, pays us initially more money than this one will. Until this one gets built up and going, it's not as big a number that we're talking about.
Yeah, well, there was a different dynamic. They had to build to completion in order to generate the.
Go on. And the other one doesn't have a credit enhancement agreement. So that's something different. And I'm sure that the developer would like to see more of that money back himself, so.
Just a brief comment. I think what Noreen and Stephen referred to, the up to 100% capture, that's just what you want to capture to get the value, if you will, of the tax shift. The up to in the application provides, frankly, the county the flexibility year by year to choose whatever you want to do. If you only said 90, you wouldn't have that flexibility. So the idea or concept is, if it said 90 and you wanted more, you'd have to amend.
That would
The
require
development
legislative
program.
approval?
You have to go through this process
So
again.
this gives us the option up front without the headache of having to go
Correct.
back.
That's our recommendation is to
And
go
yeah,
down.
so rather than go back and rehash something that you made a mistake in the first place, we have that ability to adjust. If we go 100%, we have the ability to adjust down
Each
at
year.
the commission's discretion.
Yes.
That sounds.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Anything further, gentlemen? All right, at this point, we would entertain.
I just have one question I'd like to, if you could explain for everyone's edification, the ISO rating impact on the investment, what the investment from the TIF as it relates to ISO rating improvement, that'd be a 10. What impact would that have on people around the area and other people outside of the TIF district, other residents, current residents now?
That's what I alluded to earlier with the fact.
Yeah, I wanted you to expound on that because I think it was missed.
So the Insurance Services Organization sets fire insurance ratings based upon a variety of factors, including essentially the ability to service an area. Right now, this is an underserved area. And I think George, in his work with lots of folks in the UT, I mean, his knowledge base is extraordinary compared to mine. But what Matt has thought about is if you're going to have housing and hospitality facilities like a resort hotel at some point, you're going to have to be able to get services to those structures. There are a number of homes, number of really nice seasonal camps in that area that are underserved right now. And I think if I understand George's conversations with the area fire chiefs in the three towns, Medway, East Millinocket, they sense the inability, because they, as George said, they don't have a bumper truck. Bumper trucks are basic for being able to get water to engage fire. And you can see two types of fires typically in this part of Maine, wildfires and structure fires. You gotta be able to fight both. And Maine Forest Service has got some capability, but this would be, again, a regional collaboration.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking for is a simple
economics?
Economic, as it relates to those people who now enjoy, let me finish it. Those people who currently live in the unearned are going to benefit from this ISO improved rating.
I can speak to that.
And because it's going to, in that, yeah, that's exactly what I think.
I can speak to it generally. It's impossible from ISO to get them to tell you exactly what the implications
we know
of the rating are going to create. However, 10 is the worst, and moving to 9 is fairly easily. I think Millinocket is a 5, which is about as good as you get unless you have fire hydrants every 1,000 feet throughout your entire community. Probably Bangor portions of it. But a critical metric is being within 6 miles of a qualified fire station. And so virtually all of the development that's out on the lake chain where we are is just outside that 6-mile range. And this facility would help draw a new circle that would bring in not only our own development, but our neighbors who would benefit from reduced insurance costs.
Which translates into less insurance cost for the current, that's the point, that's the selling point I'm looking at here.
Correct.
Less insurance costs or cheaper insurance for those people who currently live outside of the
10.
The current provide district. And that has a major impact on landowners.
Yes.
And property owners outside of the TIF district.
And other people's ability to develop more complex or expensive homes, which are hard to insure if you don't have a reasonable level of fire protection.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Members of the public that might like to speak in favor, Mr. Flynn.
Shane Flynn, Millinocket. I'm involved in economic development in Millinocket, specifically with Arcatodden and more specifically with One North, which is the former mill site. I think that even in far-flung parts of the county, the efforts and the work that's been done by Matt over the years is recognised, and certainly it's recognised beyond that for people who either recreate in the area or have had the good fortune to stay for whatever reason out of Twin Pines. Oftentimes you hear people say someone put blood, sweat and tears into something, and I think it's fair to say that on a daily basis, I would say Matt ticks 2 of those boxes, and sometimes probably 3. And that's been going on for quite a considerable period of time. So the amount of work that has been done here to build something really significant and really noteworthy and, unique in the whole state is evident. And most of that is through the work of local people led by Matt on a daily basis. Now there's an opportunity to do something that's beyond that and will be very, very good for the county, particularly good for the region. And I think that as one looks at the current ability to be able to raise capital markets have been pretty volatile in the last number of years. They're pretty volatile in the last few days. So it's a difficult time to actually put together a capital stack for something like this. I don't know that from the inside, but looking from the outside, I know it has to be. And the ability for Matt and other developers to be able to go forward and say, we have the support of the people of the county with a TIF, which will benefit the county. I mean, it benefits everyone, is great. Oftentimes, I think people look at a CEA and they get nervous about a CEA and they say, well, money's going into someone's pocket. And there are cases that are pretty well documented that end up often in legal action of where things are done that need to be re-examined afterwards or even litigated about. It's very clear that what Matt does stays not only in the county but stays in the region, everything that he does. And that is so critical for economic development in the area. It's going to be great for employment, short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And I think that I couldn't be a stronger proponent, and I know there are a lot of others that are very strong proponents for this development, and I hope that you look at it very favorably. The last item I just say is that I've never heard a more succinct and very well explained outline of what a TIF is than what the county attorney did. So I think it's a compliment to be able to explain something that is complex. And I thank you very much for the time.
Thank you for your comments. Others that might wish to speak in favor of the project? Yes, sir.
I'm Mike Wilson. I'm Senior Program Director with the Northern Forest Center. We're also a housing developer. We've been investing in housing in Millinocket for the last 8 or 9 years, including support from you all for a project.
If you could come up just a little closer so
Our microphones can hear you
no problem.
and introduce you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Microphone can pick you up.
So I'm Mike Wilson with the Northern Forest Center. We're a regional nonprofit. We work on rural economic and community development programs across northern Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York. For the last, since 2017 or so, we've been investing in housing in downtown Millinocket, so we're acutely aware of the need for really quality housing, places for people to live, to build a critical mass of population in the community. One of our projects we just completed, again, with support from you all, just did a ribbon cutting this past January. Overall, I think we've also been partners and observed Matt's work over time. I think we all respect and appreciate the great investment work that he's done to build up the area. I think from our vantage point, we see continuing need, not only for new residents in the area, but for just critical mass of activity. We now own a commercial building on Main Street, so we see activity on Main Street, and it's not as dynamic as it perhaps could be. And so again, understanding the type of development Matt's talking about, even though it's not right in the community, the ability to bring critical mass of people and investment and business into the area, we feel confident will help, not just the unorganized territories in the county, but downtown Millinocket as well. So we're very, very good.
Thank you for being here and for
Thank you,
your
Mr.
comments.
Wilson. And thank you, Mr. Wilson, for your organization here. We appreciate
Thank you
all the work you've done up in the Millinocket area in conjunction with the county.
Others who wish to speak in favor of the project? Now we'll go to those who may wish to speak in opposition to the project. Hearing none. Do you have anyone online?
I do not.
Okay. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak neither for nor against, but provide comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment and close the public hearing. At this point, I would entertain a motion for any action regarding this project.
I would move we move ahead and authorize the application for the TIF to the legislature.
And do we need to specify any particular details?
So I would specifically ask that the motion be to approve the draft order that is included as Exhibit I of the development application, in addition to Commissioner Marshall's directive to authorize the filing of the application.
Make a motion, so stipulated.
Just a question, there's a motion to the legislature, is this the DCD? Exactly, the
Yes.
DCD, right?
Yes.
I would second that. And I have a
Any
question.
further discussion?
Yeah, so this is just for the TIF district, and we are up to 100% TIF, and the credit enhancement agreement is separate from this action.
Right, this authorizes us to, in the future, negotiate and then bring before you to execute a credit enhancement agreement consistent with the financial terms laid out in this development program.
Well, I only have comments. We haven't had much discussion. I think this is great, Matt. You were able to be at the last meeting to our state, so thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this project. When good things happen in Millinocket, they help for the whole county. So this is a great project. It's going to be great for the whole county and the whole state.
Thank you.
And I hope you got some snow last night for the sun. So I was just letting you know.
What, inch and a half, was it, Matt? We get an inch and a half last night?
Yeah, about that.
Oh, yeah. That'll help.
So I guess my only question is, some of us in this room may not be around at the end of this TIF. What is the conveyance of the terms of this if this were to pass to another entity?
So that's covered by so essentially the development program captures the funds regardless of who owns that. The credit enhancement agreement will have standard provisions in there about assignment and responsibilities here, and so essentially we would assure that the county is covered in the event of an assignment, the obligations transfer.
Understood. Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I guess we're ready to go to vote. All those in favor of the proposed motion to advance both the application and the information in item I of our packet?
Aye.
All right.
Aye, it is unanimous. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing further developments. George, thank you for the work you've done. Watch over the UT's details. Okay, at this
Thank you,
point,
Doreen.
thank you, appreciate you being here. We will now move on to HR updates. I noticed we had in the packet a copy of this decided that the new copy.
Oh, yeah, we signed that, didn't we?
Yes.
So this is the new
That's
copy
the
that
new
was
copy.
presented.
According to findings.
Is that the,
Take no umbrage at what I'm going to do with your policy here.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Yeah.
The Wellness Committee had brought you guys policy last summer, wanting to make some amendments that were necessary, and you all agreed that we should have our insurance company give it a once-over and then have legal look at it, which we've done, and it took a long time for Malcolm to get back to me. Malcolm's only suggestions is, in some cases, we had wellness center or wellness facility, and he wanted a consistency to name it one thing and always use one title. We've corrected that. Additionally, he wanted to define elected officials so that it was clear that it was the county elected officials, not any elected official statewide.
I just want to make sure, I think the door is.
It's locked on the outside, I believe.
Okay, there we go.
And so we've corrected
Yeah,
that.
let's leave that open just because it's locked from the outside, so that's perfect. Nope, just like that would be fine, so thank you. Okay.
And then Attorney Hammer looked at it, and he made all those adjustments, and he believes it is in good condition for the county, whether it is now, for approval.
Okay.
It meets the intent of the Wellness Committee, and it gives you all the legal risk and liability coverage you wanted.
What are the changes from what we currently have? We don't currently charge a fee, do we?
We don't charge any fees, so we wanted to allow people to have a guest and charge
No,
a
but
fee.
the way this says, it says, the way I'm reading it is
Yeah, that's fine.
if a, this is not right?
That's the wrong one.
That's the old one.
Just got
Okay, so what's the, well, no, this has the fee in the one meeting. We didn't have a fee.
I believe this is the new copy,
Okay.
which you may have somewhere loose, or I may have just taken the copy.
All right, well, the way I'm reading it, it So say the registry of probate and wants to use it, and they're not on the health insurance for the county, they would have to pay a fee?
No, they're covered.
Well, it says, for purposes of section, eligible users must participate. Well, I'm trying to write where the fee, so they don't have to pay a fee, but
That may
if
be
they.
the corrected version.
Okay, but if their family member would have to pay it.
Correct.
But
Well, this
is
is what I
it
said, family
Or-
member.
an annual fee
Per use.
per
They can
use?
either do a $25 a year fee or $5 per
Right,
use.
that seems reasonable.
So if they
And the
have,
guest is a per use fee,
Yep.
I guess. Okay.
so that was the change, and then we would like, the wellness committee would like to allow minors, that have a parental guardian with them, that's an eligible user, to allow teenagers to use the facility as well, which passed the risk pool and it passed legal as well. Those are the two big changes.
Okay, I would move approval.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I think we've covered most discussion. Anything further? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you very much.
A lot of work.
Sorry it
Finally
took you
got
9
to it.
months.
Now let's hope it doesn't get flooded out.
Thank you. Leave the chief, I don't need it.
Okay, we're moving at lightning speed here. I believe we are ready for the tax abatement hearings unless there's anything you would like to insert at this point or any other. Okay. At this point, we would be taking up 2 tax abatement hearings. We'll take them in this order. The first one would be Kaufman versus State of Maine. Are there representatives present?
There are, yes.
If you'd like to come forward, we'd be happy to have you here at the front table.
Do you have tax abatement?
We have it. Thank you.
Is this both of them or just the one?
This would be this would be both of the hearings, or is this
No,
just
this is
Kaufman?
just the first.
Just the first, okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, if we have representatives from the.
Yeah, and this one comes up too. Well, but we're gonna have the state representatives, there's your voters, and here's the conference.
Yeah, if you folks, I don't mind sharing the table there, that would be great.
Welcome, everybody together.
So what we'll do first is we will ask you to introduce yourselves, we'll allow you to present your case, and then we'll have comments from the folks from the stage.
Sure,
Okay, so
absolutely.
Please proceed in introducing yourselves if you would.
Sure. Dave Kaufman.
Wife, Michelle Toder.
How do you do?
Justin McMahon, Revenue Service.
Revenue Services.
Colby Higgins, Maine Revenue Service.
Gentlemen, thanks for being here, and thank you both for coming down for this. At this point, we do have some documentation that was provided to us. You have a copy of the book. I believe both parties have that. Certainly, if there are documents in here you would like to refer to, you are certainly welcome to do so, since we have them in front of us. Some of this, I don't believe we've had a chance to review all of this at this point, correct? So we're learning as we go along here too. So, Mr. Kaufman, if you would like to proceed with any comments you have regarding this, you're welcome to.
Absolutely, thanks a lot. So the parcel of land in question is an island on Saltburn Lake in Millinocket. Just heard the Polstein, we're excited about that. We purchased that, so we have a lot that is on an island, and the opportunity to purchase additional land came up in 2020. We did purchase that land. It's a 6.2 acre lot. There's an exhibit there that shows the parcel. I think it might be in
Is this the island you're talking about?
This is the island, yeah. So this is a question about land valuation, and especially land valuation on the island. So,
Well, and to be clear, this is an island that has no road access of any sort and no power,
And none of them
no
go up
sewer.
there.
Well, some of them do, actually.
Is this, how far from the lodge are you?
so we're like just under 2 miles up the lake.
Further up?
Yeah, there's a number of islands that are a little bit to the east of us, which is the Footbridge Island, and most of those islands have electricity.
Is your island, have you given it a name?
It's Spruce Island.
Spruce.
Spruce.
Okay, would you like to proceed now?
Absolutely. We are, so our valuation went from $52,800, which was a little less than we paid for it. I think we paid around $60,000 in 2020, and the valuation went up by about fivefold to $261,000. And our argument is that even though this is waterfront land, the valuation should be significantly lower than any valuation that is on land that has road access. Again, lack of electricity, lack of access in the shoulder season, lack of fire suppression. Even if there's something up on there, it's going to be a seasonal property. And the state has provided similar properties which are mostly on land and road access. They did provide a comparison for land that is on Stubtoe, which is the Jessica Massey land. That was just over an acre. It sold for $101,000 in 2023 and was used, I think, as part of the valuation of the property. That has since been on the market for probably about 9 months at about $260,000, but has not sold. So I think the state included that listing as part of their documentation. But I would make an argument that that is significantly overpriced. The state has also said that the valuation is mostly due to the first acre of waterfront land, and then the subsequent 5.2 acres are minimal value. So my argument is that the approximately $250,000 per acre valuation for our land really should be closer to about half of that, somewhere in the $130,000 range. If you look at the land that's sold on Stubtoe, which is the closest island to us that actually had a sale of just land, again, that was $101,000 in 2023. So even if there was a 30%, 40% appreciation in the last 2 years, that really, you're looking at a market value that's closer to 130. Even if it went up 50%, you're talking about a market valuation of about $150,000. So my argument again is that even though the land valuations along the road access in that area may be $250,000 an acre, it really should not apply to our specific island land due to the lack of amenities and seasonality. So I think, I don't want to take you guys through all of the documentation if not needed, but I think to make it succinct, that's really our case, that I think the state had said that it was discounted and put in a 20% discount, but from what I could tell on the land valuations, there were a number of land waterfront lots where the land was valued somewhere around that $250,000, $260,000 range. So I didn't really see that our land was already discounted at 20% value.
There are other structures on the island?
There are other, yes. So that island has, we have a camp that's on another lot. And then Doug Alley, who owns a lot on the far northern end of the island, has a structure as well.
All right. Anything further you'd like to share at this point?
I think that's about it. Yeah. We don't want to take up too much of your time.
Gentlemen.
Well, I wanted to get started with this by, again, I'm Justin McMahon. I am one of the people that helped lead the revaluation in the unorganized territory. When we performed this revaluation, it had been about 5 years since the prior revaluation in 2020. And since then, the reason for it is we don't necessarily like to do them very often, but as there are large adjustments in market growth due to statute, we need to keep those values within reason to market. The first thing I just wanted to bring up and just look over so that we have an understanding as to why the revaluation took place, and also sort of how it took place, and the nuts and bolts as to how we derive values for properties that don't sell very often. We have a lot of waterfront property in the unorganized territory, but I would say a small portion of that waterfront property is islands. And much of the islands that are there may be owned by large landowners encumbered in tree growth, so it can be difficult in attaining a value on an island. So what I would like to first point out to the board is just this particular document here. I don't have an exhibit number on it, I apologize, but this is a sales ratio study that is performed yearly just to see where the Penobscot County, and this is done in every county along with every municipality, to see where there is.
It's in the state documents, and it's probably the fourth page, fifth page in the state documents.
State documents.
Yep.
State documents.
So ours seems to have some blue headers on it.
Correct,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
And so the first one that you see, which should be the lengthy list of sales, what this is, these are all sales that occur within the unorganized territory. I will say that these are sales strictly of land and building, used to develop a ratio. So the first sheet you're going to look at, the column to the left is going to have an R or a W in it, and that's representative to waterfront and non-waterfront, okay? So this is all of these sales combined together, and sort of in the upper right-hand side, you'll notice a list of information, and you'll notice 64%. That is where our assessments rated to market, on average. So when you look down through the list, you're going to notice that there were some places that the valuation was 27% of what it sold for, but there were others that may have been closer. So part of the revaluation is not just upping everybody's value at an equal rate. Sometimes values fluctuate depending on what we're seeing for growth in areas. I will note that Millinocket area, specifically the chain of lakes, is unique to the unorganized territory because when we think of the unorganized territory, oftentimes we think of very remote locations. I would say that this area, it is sort of sought after because it does offer recreational activities along with, well, I suppose that you could utilize some of the local services too. Looking down through this list though, this is a combination of it all at 64%. If you were to flip to your next page, you'll notice that I believe all of the sales are now segregated. You'll notice that the class of the sale is all coded as R, meaning non-waterfront. In that upper right hand,
Waterfront?
non-waterfront.
Under that class, the second column in.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it.
so that average ratio came out at 72%. So of the average of the 64, the off-water was a little bit of a higher ratio. If we were to go to the third page, it shows the waterfront ratio. You'll notice that all of the sales in there are coded with a W. I would say that the subject areas, if you were to grind into the sales in this particular area, if you were to look in about 6 columns to where the map is, anything that's listed PE 33 or PE 32 would put you in that T3, T4 Indian Purchase area. So looking at those sales, those average at 53%. So part of the revaluation is getting the R's and the W's to also come closer together. So I just wanted to give you guys an idea as to what went in behind the revaluation and the reason why we may see more of a significant increase when it comes to waterfront as opposed to non-waterfront. So when we do the revaluation and we're looking at these sales to develop a land value, what we need to do is do our best to identify what portion of the sale is attributed to the land and what's attributed to the building. I utilized a national publication, Marshall and Swift. They send up quarterly updates. It does it throughout the country and region so that it gives you basically some cost per square foot, foundation frame all the way up through. And you can sort of, you can build what you're observing out in the field. What I noticed with that was that our cost per square foot was indicating that we were about 40% low. So I increased our building schedules roughly 40%. So I would take that new building value and I would then depreciate it according to what we've observed when we were on site. And that value would be indicated as the portion of the sale that's attributable to the building. And we would subtract that value out, and then any other improvements such as wells, septics, and it would leave us with a raw land value. And from there, we would build our land schedules. And we do that all the way consistently throughout the unorganized territory. We try to get as specific to the body of water or township as possible. And then we may also look at the county as a whole to see, are we seeing similar growth in different townships? So then is it safe to assume that in those remote townships that have no sales, that I can assume that same sort of increase in market? As far as the discount on boat access properties, I'd say that area is one that does have a significant amount of boat access properties. There are a few islands that do have footbridges. Those folks, apparently, I guess if they don't want to take the boat out, some of them have wagons, wheelbarrows that they can maybe get a few supplies out to their camps. We apply a reduction to all boat access is 20%. A lot when it comes to property tax assessing is consistency in treating similar properties.
When you say boat access, is that boat-only access?
Primary boat access. I would say that the ones with the footbridges they get a reduction also, yes. And I would say that it's very similar to, I'd say that for all boat, simply because really of the walking aspect of it, I guess it may provide an opportunity to get to the camp, but we still don't see it as like an appropriate way to get your supplies to camp by hand, I guess. Because we definitely provide access reductions to other properties that may not have road access that are similar to a boat, but it might be by foot or something like that. And they're really all one and the same as far as what we do for reductions. It's 20% across the board.
Just for my edification, is boat access and road access, which is the higher? I'm assuming
the road access has no reduction placed on.
Has no deduction?
No. And then we do an additional reduction on top for the boat access. And I say boat access, it could be anything, basically like poor remote access that you're not getting a vehicle to. It might not be a boat, I suppose it could be an ATV in the unorganized territory, but primarily we're dealing with boat access.
Well, I know one of those islands that you go to, that talk about that we wind along on a long, narrow thing over a bridge and through the woods and through grandmothers, but yeah, that is not a good way to get goods.
Right, I mean, it's definitely not the same as driving. I guess it provides a different opportunity to the boat, but again, when it comes to supplies and things, I feel as though it's really tough to lug, the hand carry, and it's really no different than the boat. So that's the standard reduction that we apply. We do have one island, we have two island sales, but one of the island sales really wasn't useful for us. It was an island sale within the chain of lakes. I believe it was Big Porous Island. And unfortunately, that island is entirely encumbered by tree growth. So apparently its intended use right now is for commercial harvesting. So for them to be able to develop that lot, they would need to withdraw a portion or the entire, island, and then they could proceed. So there are some additional costs incurred in the sale of that, and given the fact that it's in tree growth, we really just kind of have to ignore it because it's not what we consider to be a buildable lot at the time. There was another lot that sold, and I can't even say that it was a lot, it was a land and camp combination that sold, that helped us to build the model, and it is in the list here. I believe the new owners are Hunter, so if you were to look through these cards here, I believe it should be the second property record card you would get to. And that property sold, and keep in mind that, we do have to differentiate a difference in value between land and buildings, and so you'll notice as lot sizes change that land values are going to change. In this instance, I believe that the Hunter property is approximately an acre. It sold in 2022 for $317,000. We currently have it valued at $316,000 with $261 on the land, using the same front foot value that we use on all islands throughout the chain of lakes, with a 20% reduction. Building value represents almost $55,000 of the value. So that would be. It is. It is on. We don't have a name here, but it is one of the footbridge islands. But that was the only island sale that we had over the course.
Does that island have electricity?
That island does have electricity.
What about the other one that you guys put in, the Massey one, the stub tow sale?
Which one is that one? Massey?
That is.
Be nice if you would number.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
I think it's on the very, if you go all the way to the back of the state evidence, it's third in from the back.
Sure.
That's also an island, that's a stub tow island, it's now listed for $269, but hasn't.
Okay.
But sold for $101.
Each party to give their evidence, and then rebut each other's evidence.
Sure.
Yeah, at this point, I just do want to reflect on the fact that we should engage through the chair here and allow folks to give their full presentations. So, Justin, if you have anything?
So no, I mean, I just really wanted to focus on the aspect of, even though there is a lack of sufficient recent data, there's a methodology placed behind the assessments, and the methodology is consistent among the properties with the reduction for the access, so on and so forth. So, and sometimes that's what we have to rely on as assessors. Sometimes I would say that the 20% is something that we've historically done. This isn't something that was new for the rebound. The starting baseline changed, but the reflection between the road access to boat access reduction has remained consistent for quite some time now.
Do you know how that percentage was arrived at?
That predates my employment with MRS.
Okay. Is there a standard that S&M, Marshall and Smith?
There's not. They're strictly, Marshall and Smith is just strictly with the building, and that's an interesting part with the rules that we follow, maybe as opposed to like a bank appraiser. Our laws are completely different, and I think a lot of that is because you need to conform and you need to be able to adjust to, you know, your local area, and so there's a lot more leeway in the assessments. Different assessors may have different practices, although there is a lot of consistency, but there is definitely flexibility when it comes to property tax assessments.
So these numbers are not established statutorily, they are rulemaking in essence of the department?
Sure, I mean, I would say statutorily the revaluation happened due to the percentages that we talk about. When we average 64%, by rule, we need to maintain 70 to 110%. Not to muddy the water, but that ratio can be adjusted by 10% up or down. So luckily enough, that 64% allowed us to adjust 6.4%, meeting that minimum 70%. So thus comes the revaluation that we needed to perform.
Okay. Other questions from the commissioners for Mr. McMahon?
Just on the other one, on the Massey, do you know if these are all arm-length transactions? The Massey one might have been a marital.
Yeah, so the Massey one for 101, I searched all raw land sales, and that did not come up for me as a public sale. There were no photos, no indication of it. And that's why I did include the one listing. And again, I cannot disagree with the fact that it's simply an asking price. When it does sell, it will definitely help us get an indication as to, you know, what the true value is. But you are correct in saying that the Massey sale was not necessarily on the open market.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Is there any, I find it interesting that we don't differentiate powered versus non-powered islands and year-round access versus seasonal access, because although a footbridge may not be the ideal way to bring materials to your camp, you can certainly get there 365, 24/7. We have long periods of time which are getting longer because our winters are getting crummier, where we can't get to that property, which makes that property really quite different than one with a footbridge. So calling them the same is hard for me to understand that exactly, because they are not the same in terms of access. So were you to plan properly, you could bring everything out by boat when we have water, and then when we have these longer and longer shoulder seasons, you can just walk out, and you have a power line, so you just flip the light on and turn your heat source on, right? We can hardly get there. This winter was an exception with great ice. You get out there for the 6 weeks of reliable ice, and you have to go drill a hole and haul in your water, and there is no power. And I find it hard to compare those as same. With the same reduction for the shack on an island, you can access intermittently and start your wood stove and drill a hole in the ice, versus the island that you can access year-round, footbridge or boat, with a power line.
Understood. I guess I hold a real estate license and do PBO, so I am very familiar with the complications of some of these assessments. There's really three values. There's the assessed value, the appraised value that you can borrow on, and then what the market ultimately provides to you. And those are sometimes very different. The basis that I see here, and certainly colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is an established basis. The question in my mind is that satisfactory for all types of non-road access islands? And that's, the use of it has to be set aside separately from the physical building and the features that we can look at. So you're using it 20%. Is this a statewide average for non-road or?
Say that it's, for us, yes, it's a standard that's used not just in Penobscot County, but throughout the entire unorganized territory.
Okay. So Moosehead Lake, I doubt there's any unorganized in Sebago, but.
There isn't, but definitely, with the exception of Greenville and Lily Bay, it's entirely unorganized, and there's definitely plenty of islands out there.
Were any of those compared in this case, or really?
No, Moosehead's just its own animal, so we try to keep Moosehead to itself. Moosehead's one of the few places that we have, we don't just have one front foot value on the body of water. We've got a handful of different front foot values, and ample sales to help us to support it too.
Yeah, I recognize, having done some work up there, that it is a very different market.
And I want to speak to the last comment too, just that, my only disagreements would just be that the camps are built seasonally. It's sort of an expectation when you have a camp on an island that it's seasonal. I suppose you can build it to be year-round, but there's always going to be the problem of access. So yes, you can make the investment. My observations, I have had the pleasure of going to each island, I think, for the most part, and seeing each building, and so I'm familiar with who they purchased their land from. I don't know, but I know the property and the beautiful beach area there, but it's a mixture. But I would just say that primarily, there are no drilled wells out there, so you're drilling a hole in the ice to get water no matter what if you want to use camp in the winter, that sort of thing. So I would just keep that in mind that, yeah, it's easy to point out a lot of the disadvantages, but I feel like a lot of them are well known going into the purchase of the property.
So if I may, did you say earlier you have a factor to discount properties that have no wells?
Absolutely. We add additional value for wells and a separate value for septics, and we even grind it down so far as to, you know, if you only have a holding tank or a gray water system as opposed to a full system, are two different values, same with drilled well, dug well. A couple different values. And as far as drawing water from the lake, at this point in time, we add nothing for drawing water from the lake.
Okay. Other questions or factors that normally we would take something like this, I think, under advisement to review the records and then give a report back. Is there anything else that you might like to share in regards to your?
No, I think we covered everything. I mean, the states, you know, again, my argument is that the 20% just isn't quite, I get it. It's sort of a blanket that has been used, and to try to make it more complex might be challenging. So I understand why the state does it uniformly, but I just don't think it's enough.
Well, as you see from today, you are not the only people concerned with the valuations, and I'm sure you've had tremendous feedback from residents.
I've spoken with a lot of them, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
It's always a learning experience. All right, if there is nothing further, at this point.
I just want to go back to the initial page, and I want this clear. The current assessed value is $261,630 from the department.
Yes.
And your estimate of fair market value is 130,000, correct?
That's
So we're looking at a difference of 131,000.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And just to clarify, this is land only, not on the structure.
Right, land only.
Yeah, this is a parcel of land that doesn't have a structure.
Say again?
This is a land lot only that does not have a structure on it.
Land only.
So this would be abutting your current.
Is that what the,
Yeah. So you're not asking regarding the structure and your current lot, it's just the newly acquired
so
property.
this is the value of the acquired land, right? All right, given that, okay.
You bought it in 2020, right? For 60?
From the neighbor.
Yeah.
No,
Well, it was actually
from the paper company.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was never actually.
It hadn't been.
It hadn't been lotted on it. Or actually, it was never actually. I think it was whoever purchased it. I can't remember.
So I think
But
the point
it
is
was
that-
abutting land, I guess. I'm sorry if I
That's
said that
all right.
wrong. It was abutting land that they purchased.
Right,
to their
but it was an
existing
arm's
lot. It
length
was like a
transaction.
6 acres or so in addition.
No, it was listed property
Yeah,
through the,
that's what I mean, it was not an abutter just making it, it was an arm's length transaction. Yeah, right, it was total. All right, anything further? All right, at this point, we thank you for your time and your attention, and we will, I'm sure, review this and get an answer back.
Thanks for your time.
You gentlemen, I think, are here, the second one due?
Yeah.
Okay.
No mystery.
Yeah, that would be fine.
This here?
Yeah, you can.
Recess.
Yeah, we're gonna take a brief 5-minute break here.
Hi, nice to meet you. What was your name? Goldie Higgins. Let me write that down.
Yeah, I just sent you the,
Oh, you sure did. Absolutely.
Hey, Bill, how you doing? I didn't see you sneak in.
That'd be great. That'd be very helpful.
absolutely, because it's a whole lot of property record card.
Yeah, we can talk. I definitely can send it to them now. This is Do you need your book? This is your new one. This is your.
I'm gonna take my book home with me.
Are you? Okay.
I need to read this.
This is your 11 o'clock. This is 11 o'clock, and this is your 11 o'clock. Everybody's got their 11 o'clock. I don't know if you should. This is, if you would let, turn it on, then this is.
That's the old one.
I think we.
Oh, let's find out what the company, anything good? Oh, really?
Oh, hello. Mario, I saw you back there. Yeah, what you doing back there? Let's get rid of your
I'm training. These guys, I'm retiring in like 3 years. I couldn't
You stop it.
Yeah.
So you're just making sure that
Everybody is exposed to everything that I do every now and then. I'm trying
So every time I go in.
No, I appreciate that.
because that is going to drive up. Take notes for the decision to Oh, my Lord. Oh,
Another water can.
Oh, sure, thanks. Taking notes here.
I never have too much fun.
They know this. I know, you told me that.
So far, so good.
You can have too much of
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Simmons.
Hey, sir.
Sir?
How's it good to see you? Thank you. Well, good now. Next up, everything going.
Hey.
Is Mr. Simons here?
Yes.
He is Zoom, okay.
So I don't have anybody specifically named Alan Simonson
Okay.
here.
Do you have anyone?
I have a Zoom user who sent 2 messages asking them to tell me if they are Alan Simons.
Okay,
I have not received a response.
okay. Well, this could get
Is he on
interesting.
yet?
What's that?
I have nobody by that name.
There's a Zoom user, but we haven't identified them as Mr. Simons.
Our last. Oh, this is the applicant of the plaintiff?
Well, we don't know.
What is this term? Petitioner.
Fax statements 11. I said to get on early, you didn't watch the. Oh, you can unmute me. Mr. Simmons, Marianne, are you watching the? Yes, you can unmute me. So that must be him.
We're from North Carolina.
Okay.
You have one? Thank you.
He said.
Do you want me to ask what his username is? Or do you see it on there?
All I see is Zoom user. So if he is Zoom user, then that is him.
We're gonna, want to test it while he's there? Well,
I mean, he can also just type in the chat if that's possible.
Why don't we do this while we're getting this set up? If you gentlemen don't mind just interjecting a little business here. Do you have something that you would like to bring forward on your administrative report that would not be too long?
Yes, the next abatements are March 18th at 09.
yes.
Next abatements are March 18th. And then we can approve the warrants if you gentlemen are okay with that.
Oh, are we on?
Yeah, we have 2 tax abatements on that. Is that still the case? For the March 18th? Yes. I believe, yes.
Yes.
There's 2. I've already got those on there.
All right. So I would entertain a motion to approve the warrants as submitted in our agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. How are we doing, Brandon?
Just find out.
I'm sorry?
I believe this is Alice.
Okay. Mr. Simons or Simmons, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you very well, sir. How do you, would you like to introduce yourself so I don't butcher your name?
Is there a visual?
Yes, so my name is Alan Simons, and I am calling in from North Carolina. I do appreciate the commissioners agreeing to do this on Zoom. It would be a very costly trip to have to fly all the way up to Maine to sit in front of you, although I would have enjoyed that, I'm sure. Just to get back to the state of Maine.
Schedule permits any time, but thank you for your time this morning. Just briefly, I'll introduce ourselves and have those from the state who are here to introduce themselves. For the record, I'm the chair of the commission. My name is Andre Cushing. To my right,
Commissioner Dave Marshall from the 3rd District.
which would encompass the unorganized territory, and then Commissioner Trumbull.
Yeah, Dan Trumbull, and the Bangor area, Bangor, Brewer, Holden, Annington, Clifton.
And then to his left is our county administrator, Mr. Blair Tinkham, and kind of to his back to you, but not intentionally, is our county treasurer, Glenn Moore.
Well, good morning. It's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you. And then representing the state here, gentlemen, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Justin McMahon, Maine Revenue Services.
Colby Higgins, Maine Revenue Services.
Okay. So the format we generally take, Mr. Simmons, is I'm sorry, thank you. Simons is to allow you as the plaintiff or petitioner to provide your information. We do have a booklet here that has some documentation in it, but if you have anything verbally that you would like to share with us beyond that, we would allow you to do that. Then we will have comments, testimony from those from Maine Revenue Service as to the process. Will allow you time to rebut or add commentary following that, and then we generally take these under advisement. We don't act on them today. So do you have any questions regarding that process?
No, I do not have any questions at this point.
Great. Well, thank you. At this point, we would allow you the opportunity to present any other information or facts that you wish to convey to the commission.
Yeah, so I do have some prepared comments that I would like to go over and, kind of leverage off some of the research that I've done and so forth. I will say that I did sit in and listen to the gentleman that was before us, the party before us, on a similar issue there, an island property and so forth. So that was interesting, and I'll be talking about a lot of the same things that they discussed.
All right.
So first of all, I'd like to, just getting started here, I said, first of all, I'd like to thank the commissioners for allowing me to present my case regarding the valuation of our camp and property. I submitted the application for the abatement of taxes, property taxes, on December 19th, 2025, along with a 2.5-page memo in the supporting attachments detailing our research and concerns regarding the valuation of our property. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read and review that package. You did make reference to it, so I do believe you have it. That package came with a lot of considerable amount of time and effort on my part to research and try to figure out how some of this valuation was being done. Hopefully that stands well, that at least I'm thorough and I understand some of it, not all of it clearly, but I do have a basic understanding. Our property valuation increased from $201,590 to $356,710. A shocking increase of $155,000 or 77%. And the actual property tax increased from $1,832 to $2,326, a $494 increase, which amounts to 27% increase in 1 year. The major issue with our camp is that it is on an island and accessible only by boat or by hiking a trail over a footbridge. That inability to drive all the way to the property presents many, many challenges and makes these camps less desirable to own and very difficult to sell. As a result, the properties are typically passed down within the same families to the younger generations, and they don't get sold. The valuation of $356,000 for a rustic camp built 70 to 80 years ago on an island that can only be used for 5 or 6 months out of the year is totally unrealistic, in my view. Clearly, there are some wide ranges of properties in the unorganized territory that include some very expensive year-round homes that are accessible by car, many of which are waterfront or water-influencing properties that tend to drive up the averages. Few of, if any, of these properties, and I do have the information that Justin had talked about with the water-facing, water-influencing study. That document does not include any island properties. So yeah, there's a lot of properties and very expensive properties on the mainlands and so forth, but not on the islands, because there have been absolutely no sales there. So this situation with the lack of any sales at all is a huge problem for the state of Maine and for the owners to be able to come up with, what we should be selling or looking or valuing these things for. So it was interesting that Justin talked about having 2 properties. One was an island, and that one was kind of debunked. And the other one was the Hunter property. I'll get to the Hunter property in a minute, but I was not presented with the package that I was working with Maine State Revenue. I was provided with a property that was supposedly on an island, and it was located off Waldley Pond Road. And I can give you the property number. It's 19807021010. That property, I'm not going to name names. I do know who the owner was, but I'm not going to name that only because for confidentiality purposes. But as I stated in my written analysis, that property is absolutely not on an island. My brother and myself were interested to see that property, and we took a ride. We went down Waldley Pond Road, and we drove all the way to the cottage in question. So that property cannot be used for island valuation purposes. With that discovery, I felt that the state of Maine failed to do the proper due diligence, and as a result, used inaccurate and insufficient information, which invalidates this property and leaves the state with really no credible basis for the fair market value of island properties. As I indicated in my memo, through discussions with a local realtor I was able to locate another island property, which is the Hunter property that was referred to, property number 198070210. That sold in 2022, but was not considered in the information that I was provided at the time for consideration by the state of Maine. Well, you know, and it's a single, that particular property is somewhat comparable, but is a much newer property than our property, the one I'm owning. That property, the Hunter property, that construction took place in 2014. So it's like 12 years old. My cottage is 70 to 80 years old. So while it might be tempting to use that sale as the basis, a single property sale is simply not an adequate sample. As a result, an alternative approach to obtain a fair and reasonable estimated market value, we contacted and tried to hire 6 different appraisal companies across Penobscot County in order to obtain an independent appraisal of our property. Unfortunately, all 6 companies denied due to the lack of prior sales and comparable sales. That's what everybody uses as the basis for what property should value for. What is clear is that the lack of sales is a testament to just how difficult it is to sell these properties without significant discounts. And jacking up the property taxes on these properties is only going to make it more difficult to sell. Given the lack of prior sales data, we also attempted to do our own assessment of the reasonable market value for our property. We used the property that sold in 2022 for $317,750 as the basis and made certain normalization adjustments provided to that property and other island properties that total $60,365. And applied that to our valuation of $356,710, reduced it by that $60,000. We felt that a $296,345 was a more fair and reasonable valuation for the property. So, you know, I'd stop there and ask if you guys have any questions or comments back relative to my request.
Thank you. Are there questions from the commission for this group?
Yeah, what did, in your estimate value of 296,345, what basis did you come to that figure?
So there were a number of adjustments. You know, some of this stuff too is very subjective, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously there was a 20% discount that was applied, which I believe is way understated. But when I looked at the Hunter property, there was also, in addition to the island discount, there was also a power line and a trail easement amount granted. I think it was 5% each, and it was totaled like $13,000 on that property. That type of an adjustment was not offered to me in my valuation. I have power lines running across my property, and I have 2 trails, one under the power line in the back of the property and one right in front of our property, you know, feet away from the front of our camp. So that wasn't offered. That was one of them. And then I got into looking at the values applied to some of the cottages, and I noticed that there was a lot of differences there. You know, the lofts were, in one case, the Hunters have a loft. No value was assigned. My camp has a loft, and $18,000 was assigned as a value. So I've, and the entire area, even under the eaves, was calculated as usable square footage, which is, with the slope of the roofs up there, it ramps down really quick. So, I made an adjustment. I assumed that a certain area, about half, would be usable, and made that calculation, and that resulted in a $17,000 adjustment. These are all detailed in the memo that I had provided previously.
I think I'm missing a page, because in your memo you sent to us, mine goes from 1 point to number 4. I'm missing 2 and 3. I think I missed the back page of one of these. Did we all miss that?
Yeah, I in the same situation. I see it goes from item 1 on the front page to the second page, item 4. So we may need to gather some information. As I shared previously, we typically do not make a decision at the hearing. We would take it under advisement and render a decision following that. So it will give us the opportunity to review some of your data. For my own edification or information, is your question or your objection to the increase in valuation of the land portion of your holdings or the total portion of your holdings?
No, I'm concerned about the total valuation. I understand that most of it is due to the land, but it wasn't consistent. When I looked at a number of different properties that were island properties and started doing my comparisons, and my 70 to 80-year-old cottage has the highest valuation for some of the internal factors that were applied. And so, I felt that can't be right. Why am I being valued so much higher? So I've put that on the list here.
Okay, thank you. Anything further at this point?
Are you posing the question to me?
Yes. If not, I will now move to the state's representatives from the Teaching Revenue Services, and then we will give you an opportunity before concluding to make any comments or ask any questions.
Okay, that's fair.
Thank you. Justin, if you'd like to proceed with any comments that you have regarding this property.
Absolutely. First off, I'd like to apologize just for my spreadsheet with a couple thousand sales. I didn't do a very adequate job of indicating this particular Hunter Island sale, so it wasn't our intent to provide Mr. Simons with any non-useful information for that particular property that him and his brother drove to. I want to make note also, because a lot of what comes with assessing is unfair as taxes are. We want to be as fair with our assessments and our practice behind it. So just to talk about the Hunter property and the loft, these property record cards can be really tough to comprehend the information, and there's some stuff that maybe isn't included, although it is there. What's that?
Yours are much better than some I've.
So on the Hunter property, we do not indicate the loft area on the sketch. We simply have it as a single level, but in the center section of the card, and I'll kind of point my finger right to where your eyes maybe need to go. Okay. It's going to be right here.
So this is the
Hunter property. That would be the second card in on the list there. Yep. We do have that listed with 220 square feet of loft area, and that loft area is calculated from the low eave, to low eave, and then from gable end out to where it becomes open. I'll note that we do the same with the half stories, meaning we measure from low eave to low eave, and the cost the replacement cost goes down as you build up. So basically meaning that half story has a much lower cost per square foot than a full story that has full headroom. I just want to make it clear that we're not necessarily accounting for area that we understand that there's some that's non-existent, and it's built into that cost per square foot. We don't get into many properties, so we are highly rely on exterior measurements. And so that's why you'll notice that. On his property, we list it as a story and a half. I don't know if it's noticeable from the photo, but there is a dormer up there that allows for some additional headroom. Thus us making the decision to call it a story and a half. So I wanted to touch quickly on that, just so that everybody sort of has an understanding as to how that's taken into account. And even though it looks like we may be calling it under the whole footprint, it's the way it is built and the way it works. I would argue that, the Hunter property, in terms of location and style, is a really good comparable. Absolutely. The Hunter camp has had some rebuild aspect to it. I mean, I would say that possibly, we spoke about construction of 2009, but I have a feeling that there was an existing old camp there that I assume that they kept a portion of because of its proximity to the water. I would also note that the Hunter camp has less depreciation placed on it due to its age. We develop a replacement cost and it's depreciated 10%, as opposed to the Simons camp. It's depreciated. It has that replacement cost is depreciated 35%. So we do try to recognize the different condition depending on when it was built and taking into account any maintenance and whatnot that's been performed over the years. But there is a difference in depreciation there. I would note that the Simons camp, one of the reasons it would have a higher value would be we also, we base it off from square footage, and there's more square footage there. So, and given the fact they are, similar as far as seasonal type construction, they have a similar quality grade. Meaning, I will note that the Hunter camp does have a full bathroom, but it only has a gray water system. So it does also get served by an outhouse or privy. I would note that the Simons camp does have a full septic system, and that's reflected in that land value. I would also say that the Simons have a higher land value because, we do take into account the size of the lot, and the Hunter property is an inferior size lot. It's an acre. Simon's got about 1.7 acres. 7/10 of an acre can make a difference when it comes to things like shoreline zoning and different things that can oftentimes provide more opportunity. But I would also note that, the additional 0.72 acres above and beyond the Hunter compared to the Simons, the majority of that value is placed on the first acre, and the fact that it's able to house a structure. That's really just a driving force, is can I build a structure? And so that's why so much emphasis is placed on that first acre. And I would note that additional 0.79, which definitely provides a buffer and whatnot, is valued at $540 for the Simons. So I mean, I would also argue they both have that same 20% reduction for the boat access. And I want to comment on the 5% that was brought up on the power line and trail easement, because I think that's also an important thing to address. That was one single adjustment that was made for one single account. We spent a good month on tour going to different areas and being able to speak with taxpayers, and we offered them every opportunity to come and speak with us, and they also have the number to our office where they can call and go over their details. We spoke with the Hunters. They explained some of their grievances, and there was a small reduction given for that transmission line going right down, splitting the middle of that lot and whatnot. That's since been removed, mostly because we felt it to be an outlying adjustment, and we also understand that if you'd like to have the luxury of power, you might have to deal with a power line going through or to your property to supply that power. So I will note that absolutely at the time that the information was supplied to the Simons, that small 5% reduction was given to this one individual property, and we've since, know that wasn't really appropriate in going forward. Thankfully, it was a small adjustment, but it was sort of an outlying.
So the power line is a right of way to their camp?
Yeah, I mean, basically the power line encompasses some of the walking trails, but basically, and there are a couple of islands that don't have footbridges, but they span the lines across from islands that do have existing property. So there's a cluster of islands there that have power. This is one of them. The Hunter Sail is also one of them. So I do consider it to be a very comparable sail, given its utility and its proximity. We do have less value on the Hunter property as opposed to the Simons, and I would say that it's based solely on the size of the lot and the size of the structure.
So I'd like to interrupt.
One moment, if you would, sir. He has the floor at this point, and then we'll be happy to take your questions or rebuttals.
All right.
So, I consider it to be, when it comes to the limited, as mentioned, pool of sales that help you identify values on islands, that this is a very, it's a reasonable comparable, I think.
So just for my clarity, the trails and power line right-of-way is no longer applied to the...
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
It was applied at the time that you provided this information, but you've rescinded
We've
that?
since removed it, yes.
Okay.
Just because of it being an outlier and just like, again, the realizing of, hey, if you're gonna have power, you have to understand that the utility needs to get there. And so...
If there were a multiple unit dwellings on that island, and this was a right-of-way of common, would you?
Correct. So, it's sort of a situation of the closer to the parking area you live, the less you have to walk, but maybe the more traffic you have passing through your property,
okay.
I guess. But it's fortunate that it's not an extensive amount of development, that, it's a steady trail of people walking through. And
But is this a common deduction?
No, and that's why we went back and we said, this isn't something that we need to address.
Okay. So you're not like the 20% deduction, you're not applying?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Other questions from the commission, from Mr. McMahon?
I just looked at the two here, and you've got the 100 at one and the other one at 1.5 stories. And I looked at the two pictures framework. So what is the difference in the?
Sure. The dormer really on the front side is the that's sort of what opening up that headroom is what made us consider it a half story. And again, that's something that's consistent also as far as, a standard gable roof with no dormers as opposed to.
But that's partial to one side of the roof facing.
Correct.
But not the other side.
I assume so. If it had dormers on both sides, we would call it a 1 3/4 story.
Okay. But a 1.5, it's only that, and what is this, what is the actual footage of that?
Sure.
That would qualify it as a 1.5 as a.
Sure, it's not, so you'll notice that the roof sort of changes pitch there on the water side, and if you look at the footprint to the side there, right above it, you'll notice that we have what is labeled as a UEP, and that's just an enclosed porch, so basically an unfinished, closed-in area that spans across the front,
Right.
and that, you'll notice that doesn't have any sort of FHS label with it, which would stand for finished half story. So that's considered just single level, and then sort of where that imaginary low eve is, where the change of pitches is where we go to the half story, taking into account that more gabled roof with the dormer opening up the headroom.
Anything further? Okay. Mr. Simons, you have some commentary or reaction that you'd like to share?
Yes, so I do agree with Justin in that this property does come close. It definitely is on an island. It definitely has a footbridge that you have to go over to get to the cottage. So I think that was good. And that's why in my original write-up, I proposed that we use that as the basis, because the other one up on Wadley Pond Road was not an island property. So, so it's interesting that that's now the basis. And I just wonder when that shift took place, because I was working with people at Maine State Revenue to help me provide information to me on the different cottages and stuff. So, you know, I do have a lot of data here. As far as the square footages, Justin just talked about us having a much larger property than the Hunter property. The first floor in our property is 822 square feet. Their first floor is 720. So there's a 100 square foot difference. That's not a substantial difference, and certainly not enough to cause a $40,000 valuation difference. I mean, they're at 317, I'm at 356. So I don't understand, and that was his primary reason for the additional. As far as the land goes, I didn't bring up that as an issue because I saw that most of the land is, that first acre valuation, that's where most of the value is. And there was a minimal value assigned to the rest of the land, the 0.7, if you will, that Justin referred to. So in the back of our property ramps up. We sit up off the lake, and then behind the camp, it goes up again. And for the back area, it is a cliff, pretty much, a hill that nobody can use in the back of the property. So yes, I do have a bigger property, but my position is that at least 0.7 acres of it is not usable. You could not subdivide it or do anything like that, and not that the laws would allow me to do it anyhow. So, but it is just not usable land.
All right, Justin, do you have a factor that you use for land that may fall into the category that Mr. Simons has mentioned, or is it just the aggregate square footage?
Are we talking about the land?
Yes.
The initial waterfront acre is based off the front foot. With islands, many island lots, especially if you own the entire island, you have a lot of water frontage. But we didn't want to sort of disadvantage that to those that own on the mainland that have a similar size, but just because they're not completely encumbered by water, we don't want to go adding on for that. So that's why we max it out at 200 feet. And then you see the majority on that first acre. Generally, the excess acres, like we mentioned, is worth 540, and I would argue that we're not taking into account any potential splitting or subdividing, and that, sure, it may have topographical issues, but it's just the excess land at $540 for that 0.79, and so it's more a buffer, protection, whatnot, just a little distance from the neighbor. So no, we do not. We do have wasteland, wetland categories that we use. We save that specifically for basically bog type areas, things like that.
Well, this area that I'm talking to is behind our cottage, up over the top of the hill in the back. And there aren't any other camps next to that area. The camps are closer to the water and in relation to our camp. So it really doesn't present a buffer to us at all. It's just an area that is totally unusable. And the power lines are up that way too.
Okay. I think we've covered what the status is of power lines at this point, but I appreciate your comments. You do understand how they are factoring what they refer to as buffer land or excess acreage that is not usable. Yeah.
I understand that. I've seen the calculations.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the commission for Mr. McCann or Mr. Simon? Okay. I think once we get the additional information that you had provided in your memo, we can review that, and then we can come back and render our final decisions. But both of you have provided us good understandings of your positions. We appreciate you taking the time to do that, and we'll act on this in a proper manner. Yes.
I think the problem why you missed the page is I think it's a two-sided copy. And evidently the copier, the person that put the package together there may not have copied the reverse, but I have the page, I have it here right in front of me. And I can send it to you. Who should I provide that information to?
I think if she does not have it, it would be Marianne O'Kelly in our office, so.
Okay, I'm familiar with her, yes. I've spoken to her too.
It would be page 2, which has items 2 and 3 on them that we do not have in our books.
Yeah, okay, well, I apologize for that, but
No,
I had good intentions.
And we've got the detail, and we will certainly make sure that we have that before we conclude our deliberations.
Yeah, this is a passionate issue. I mean, this camp that we're talking about has been in our family for 67 years. It was my dad, mom's property, and it's every time we go up there, that's where I feel closest to them. And we've worked really hard to try to improve the property, and after 67 years, I've never seen anything like this. It's kind of frustrating, and and I do think there's a fair amount of subjectivity to how things are being valued. And so that's why I've done the amount of work and detail that I have to try to highlight those.
I appreciate it. And just as a side note, my family owned the campground and boating marina on Ripaginas Lake that they created, so I can appreciate your affinity for that area.
Yes, it's God's country.
It is. All right, sir. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here. We will review this, and we will get decisions back to both parties. So I hope you have a good day, and send us some more of that sunshine from North Carolina if you would.
Well, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to hear me out, and I do appreciate it. So look forward to hearing your conclusions.
Yes, sir. Best to you and your family.
Yes, same to you. Thank you.
I think, gentlemen, unless there's anything further we need from them, we'll end this portion of our.
Yeah, I had a double thing here. Did anybody miss it?
I
had a double. Oh, you all had a double?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right, with that, I think we are concluded on the tax abatement hearings. Thank you for your work. I know it's at times somewhat frustrating, but we appreciate the diligence you put in.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.
That's
All right.
Thank you, Justin Colby.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll get my piece in a couple of weeks.
All right, fair enough.
Dip my toes in the water.
Okay, I believe we have completed all but J and K. Do we have other business that is to come before us? I see none. Everyone is pretty well departed the room. Mr. Collins, did you have anything to share since you've taken the time to join us again?
No, I just thought I'd come to sit and see the sustained body of work.
Okay. With that, if the commissioners have nothing further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second. Vote as noted. We are concluded.